The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Dr. Rab, let me hear you, baby. What you got?
Oh,
that's kind of quiet. You must be in the back there at Rossbridge Animal Hospital, huh?
I gotta keep it quiet because there's clients here, and if they hear me howling, they're gonna be like, "This guy's insane! Get your stuff and get out of here."
Well, the sooner they know you're insane, the better. He is Dr. Rab Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital at Rossbridge Vet. Rossbridge Vet on Facebook, of course, rossbridgevet.com. You can check out their website. And of course, this is Dark Side of the Moon and Dark Side of the Pet, all tied into one is what he is. It's called Dark Side of the Pooch. And we do that every single week. It runs 5 days a week here on the TKR app. And of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast. We take your emails, info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. It's always brought to you by Ed's Pet World, in business for nearly 50 years. When we started this show, I think it was like 47 years. So it's got to be closer to 50 now. Seth and Angie, the entire crew down there, they do exotic pets. They got everything from sugar gliders to chinchillas to caiman alligators, fish, you name it, they got it down there, rabbits, all kinds of beautiful things. And Seth is opening up his brand new brick and mortar toy store that's got all kinds of great collectibles. He buys, sells, and trades. So if you find something in your attic, make sure you check it out. Ed's Pet World, 879-1331. We got some great emails here and a couple of other stories I wanted to get into. Anything interesting happening there at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital you want to share with us?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty much business as usual here. Nothing too crazy. Oh, well, I mean, I guess maybe rat poison. A bunch of dogs eating rat poison lately.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not something that you see all the time. But yeah, this company, I guess, came and through the neighborhood, there were some, I mean, it was the exact same rat poison. There's a couple of different types. Well, more than a couple, but there's a handful of different types. And they put the bait out. I guess these people were having some rodent problems at their house, and they make it. They got to make it so the rats want it. They've got to make it taste good and smell good. So that's what happens. Dogs got it, and so I mean, I'm going off on a tangent here. Is that okay? Or should I
absolutely. No, go, baby, go. It's your show. I know. I love it. So, have you ever had a dog get snapped by a mousetrap?
No mousetrap. But this is rat bait. So what it does is cause anticoagulation. So the reason it kills rats is because they eat the stuff, and rats run around and they hide in places, and they're going to get cut. Like rats get cut all the time just on random pieces of wood or something in the garage or whatever. And so the rat poison makes it so they just bleed to death. Even from a small cut, they just bleed to death and die.
That's horrible.
So yeah, but the rats, they carry the plague and other terrible viruses or bacteria, so whatever, who cares. But these dogs get it, and the same thing happens to them. So they eat the rat poison. Hopefully the owner realizes it pretty quickly. And then if you can get them in within, a couple hours, you can give them something to make them vomit. They'll throw up the rat poison. Then you give them something to make them stop vomiting, and then you give them like a medication. It's not medication, but it's like activated charcoal, so it absorbs the poison before it's absorbed in the GI tract. So it kind of just binds that poison, and the dogs just kind of poop it out. And so
ingesting the rat poison alone will not make a dog throw it up?
No. And so then eventually, so after you give them that stuff, you have to take some blood and see if their clotting profiles or their clotting times and their with their blood is still okay, because you want your blood to clot quickly. Yeah. So if you take blood from a dog, you do the test on it. If it takes a long time for that blood to clot, then you know that they got enough rat poison to potentially harm them. So then you give them vitamin K for 30 days until the rat poison kind of runs its course, and they're all good.
That is crazy, and thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of people think that if you lay down something that would obviously kill something, that dogs wouldn't eat it, but we also know that dogs eat their own poop, so I don't think that's not far-fetched that a dog would probably eat something like rat poison. They're
going to eat it. They're going to eat it, and the other thing is sometimes if a rat has eaten the rat poison, and then the dog eats the rat, it's the same thing.
Oh,
Dogs
yeah.
still get the rat poison.
I could certainly see that. Rossbridge Animal Hospital's Dr. Rab, he joins us every single week here for Darkside of the Pooch. Speaking of eating poop, have you seen this commercial for Pooph by chance? Pooph. Have you seen this?
I think I have, but you have to remind me.
It is a pet odor removal system that takes the stink out of the equation by completely dismantling odors from your dogs. So basically, and the way the commercial's done, it's very entertaining, and it appears that it would be just a great idea, because who wants to give a dog a bath once a month when you can just go ahead and mask it with this spray? And of course, the guy's spraying it inside of his mouth. You can put it in your hair. It's basically like Febreze for animals. And it looks like a brilliant idea. I guess it would be a great idea maybe if you're having some neighbors over and your dog just, if you got like the beagle type or a breed that kind of stinks anyway, and you just don't have time to bathe the animal, you spray the animal, just like we do, whenever I have people come over to the house, I'll take the Febreze and I'll go through the house real quick. They're gone. I'll clean up later. So what are the pros and cons to doing something like this to an animal? First of all, if you're not bathing your animal, that's not a good thing. But is there any other cons you can think of by using a spray like Pooph on your animals?
I mean, I can't think of any, because I think I have seen that commercial, and the guy does spray it in his mouth.
I know, right?
So, I mean, there's no cons. And I mean, I don't really bathe my dog routinely. So I don't, I mean, I might bathe my dog once a month, if that. So there's some drawbacks to bathing your dog too much. You could dry their coat out. So there's no, that I would say if you don't bathe your dog a lot, it's no big deal.
Well, how often should you bathe your dog? I mean, is there any reason?
More frequently.
Is there any reason to bathe your dog if they're not? I mean, if they go outside and pee and poop and they don't roll around the grass a lot and get into trouble, is there any reason really to bathe your dog at all?
I mean, I really don't. Like, I'll tell you. So there's once every couple of weeks I have to get the dog out of my house because we have a super awesome lady that helps keep our house clean, because we have 3 kids and my wife and I both work. Mm-hmm. So every 2 weeks I bring my dog to the office, and I ask my kennel staff to bathe them just so like they'll have something to do. Oh, nice. And you're like, yeah, let's just put one more thing on their list. It's no big deal. But if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't. I don't bathe my dog unless he is visibly dirty. I mean, unless he gets, he runs around and rolls in the dirt, or, we go somewhere and he plays in the mud. Otherwise, I don't bathe him. And if I didn't have to get him out of the house once every 2 weeks, I don't know that I would ever bathe him. Oh. I think once every 2 weeks, just from a routine standpoint, is sufficient. If you need to bathe your dog more than that because it gets dirty and stuff, I mean, it's fine. But it's just, if you do it more often than every 2 weeks, you just run the risk of drying their coat out.
But there's nothing like sitting in your recliner and having a clean dog hop up in your lap. It does. I mean, their fur feels more furry. I mean, I will pet my dogs a lot more when they're clean than when they're nasty.
For sure. And I mean, you can, and that's just like, my dog I don't have a small dog. He doesn't get in my lap. He lays on his bed on the floor. Yeah. So, if I had a little dog that was, he was in my bed or sitting in my lap and stuff like that, then yeah, for sure, I would probably be a little more diligent. But with him, he's, no big deal. Only
because I know the question's coming. info@TonyCurryRadio.net. But how often do you bathe?
How often do I bathe?
Yeah, I know it's
depends
coming.
on if I work. So, so for example, every morning that I work or go to church, I take a bath.
There you go. Okay.
Take a shower. I don't take baths, take showers. Okay. But for example, if I'm off on, let's say, so Saturday, I didn't work. Yeah. I was off on Saturday. Yeah. So I woke up, I worked out, I got in the pool, then I did some yard work. Yeah. And then I took a shower, at the end of the day. Yeah. But if I have like a lazy Saturday where I don't do a whole lot, I might just wait till Sunday morning before I go to church.
Dude, if you're in the pool, that counts.
I mean, it counts, but I sweat. I worked out, and then I did some yard work. So it's kind of like at that point, it's the end of the day. You got to wash that stuff off.
Gotcha. Brought to you by Ed's Pet World, 879-1331, 879-1331. Their phone number, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, 208-0301. I saw another interesting story before I get into our emails, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. And by the way, you can hear this podcast wherever you get your favorite podcast. Excuse me. Psychology Today has been studying a brand new phenomenon. When I saw this, I was like, you know what? We've got first world problems around here, but I guess enough people are bringing it to the attention now of doctors. It's called pet owner guilt. Have you heard about this? It's called POG.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I see it every day, but give me some more details.
It is a new study that reports it resembling the same guilt experience by parents of young children, and that is to say that there is whenever, and it's really started after COVID because a lot of people became very, very close with their animals, and then all of a sudden they had to leave. And pet owner guilt is, quite frankly, the guilt of not spending enough time with an animal that you love and that loves you. And it can cause depression, anxiety, and other issues. Your thoughts and how much, you know what? I come to find out that the more time I spend with my pets, obviously I'm healthier for it and I'm better for it, but the more time they expect. If you start walking your dog every day, it will demand you walk it every day. And there's some days, quite frankly, I just don't want to do it. They'll take, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. If you give them a half a pork chop, they want the half the pig. And that's a good, and they demand it, right? It's like, and so sometimes, you know, my dog will come up, you know, when they stick their nose, their wet, nasty nose in the palm of your hand to try to get you to pet their head. And you'll pet them for a few minutes, for like 4 or 5 minutes, and you let them go. And then they start snooping around again. You're like, dude, I just pet you for 5 minutes. Go away. So if you are that person who has shown a practice or a standard of expectation for your animal, which obviously is obviously into its routine, then it's going to expect it. And I think what a lot of people did is they gave their dogs and cats a lot of love during COVID, and now they have to leave them. They feel guilty for it.
Well, you know, you're talking to the person whose livelihood depends on the pets that come into my building, like being happy and healthy and taken care of. So I get it because probably 90% of my daily stress is being sure that animals are happy. So if anyone identifies with the guilt of not being around pets, it's definitely me.
Yeah.
You know, because I get it. But you know, at the end of the day, I think what your parenting style is kind of translates to what your pet ownership style is. And, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent, I feel like I can, you know, teach my kids through, you know, examples. And it's kind of like, look, if this makes you anxious or this makes you nervous, then let's address it and let's see if we can fix it, you know, rather than just feel bad about it and try to, you know, cover it up with something else.
So since
I'm the same way with my dog.
Yeah, since we're talking about psychology, this is very interesting. I used to have a next door neighbor. She was wonderful, and she was a kindergarten teacher. And of course, at about the same time, my daughter was like 3 or 4 years old, and she loved to go hang out with this woman. And occasionally, I'd say, "Hey, can Lila come over?" And she would say, "No." And I'd go, "What?" And she goes, "Tony, I've been around children all day. The last thing I want to see right now is another 3-year-old." And I get that. I understand that. Just like, you know, a pediatrician probably sometimes when he gets home or she gets home, they don't really want to spend a lot of time with their kids because they've been looking at kids all day long. Is that the same with a veterinarian? You've been around dogs your entire life. You see them all day long, and then you get home and you got 2 dogs that want belly rubs. Does it affect you the same way?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it because the stuff that I do at work is hanging out with, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. There aren't many dogs that like to come to the vet unless the dogs that come to our daycare, they love to come here. Yeah. Like they know they're coming here to play and they see the people and they love it and they wag their tail and they're jumping around and they're having a great time. Mm-hmm. But the majority of the pets that come in here, they don't want to be here. Yeah. And most of the owners like, okay, so if you're going to pick up your phone or you get a call, like let's say you're sitting in my office and you get a call and someone's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm at the vet." What are they going to do? They're like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. That's just the way it is. Yeah. It's the same thing as a dentist. Yeah. Like someone calls you, you're in the waiting room of a dentist. "What are you doing?" "I'm at the dentist." "Oh man, my bad. Sorry." But so when I'm here, the pets don't want to hang out with me for the most part. Like they're trying to get away from me. They're trying to, you know, get back in their owner's lap or resist whatever we're trying to do. Yeah. But when I get home, you know, my dog, he wants to hang around with me. You know, he wants to go outside. He wants to play. He wants to be petted and all that stuff. And so it's a totally different experience for me when I'm at home. Now, if I think that if I came to work and the dogs were always happy to see me, like that's something that you would want all the time, so I would never, ever get tired of that. But I will tell you that what keeps me from hanging out with my dog is when I get home from work and and this is anybody, it's not just because of what I do. It's just because I do something and it takes a lot of energy to do it. So I get home and I'm tired, or I want to watch a game or something, or, I've got 3 kids and they're all pretty young, 10, 8, and 5. Mm-hmm. And so they demand a lot of my time. So, I probably am one of these people that have, this guilt, but it's like, what do you do about it? There's only so many hours in the day.
That's true. There he is. Dr. Rab Stewart, and his hours are taken up at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter, 208-0301, 208-0301. If you want to board your pet, by the way, this summer, make sure you call early, because they book up pretty doggone quick. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Stacy in San Antonio, this kind of goes along with what we've been talking about here. Does Dr. Rab ever suffer any of the same things that doctors of medicine suffer from? And I'm assuming she's talking about if you're being around things that obviously need to be fixed, things that aren't feeling good, things that are suffering, and then you get home after a long day. Do you ever take your work home with you?
Oh, man. All the time, every day. So, and I think that most of us are being, meaning veterinarians, we're the same way.
Yeah.
It's just a very, it's a high touch point with people. Like, we talk to people a lot. We're in the room with them a lot. Like, we spend a lot of time with our clients and our pets. That's just the nature of veterinary medicine. The physical exam takes a long time because they can't talk to you. Yeah. The pets can't talk to you. And so you're trying to figure out what's going on based on the exam. So it's not, it's a little bit different in human medicine because people can verbalize. And I've heard some doctors say they can't stand, they would rather just be able to do an exam on somebody and then not tell them what's wrong. Because in some ways it might be easier to figure out what's going on. But we spend a lot of time with our clients and our pets. And so when you develop that relationship, it's really hard when things don't go right, like a diagnosis that eludes you, or just something not getting better, despite, the diagnosis is correct. And you just give them, you just go through the list of everything that you should do and the pet just doesn't get better, or just chronic conditions that, there's no cure for, you're just trying to manage. So that kind of stuff, like, it really does, it weighs on you because because in some ways you're disappointing 2 people, even though the pet's obviously not a person, but you're disappointing the owner, if you can't nail down what's going on and you can't fix it. Like even if, we're not God, even if like it's a terminal illness, you can't fix it. So you're letting the owner down, and then, you're also kind of letting the pet down. So it's kind of a double whammy in a way. Yeah. So I take it home a lot, especially as a business owner, because you're not only talking about the medical aspect of it, you're also thinking about the financial aspect of it. And this is how I provide for my family. And if also I provide for 15 employees. So it's just, you carry a lot with you when you're at work and you carry it home. You try not to, at the end of the day, you and I both feel super strongly about this. It's like, God's always in control. Yeah. And if whatever's going to happen, he's going to help. He's not going to help. He is going to shepherd us through that. But looking through human eyes, it can be a difficult pill to swallow sometimes. Absolutely. So that's just what we try to remind ourselves, every day.
There you go. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. This is Darkside the Pooch. You can hear at least 5 days a week here on the TKR app. Make sure you download the TKR app on Apple. Tony Curry Radio on Android, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Todd in New Orleans said, can dogs have mental deficiencies? I'm assuming that maybe they're mentally disabled. Can dogs be mentally that way?
I mean, they can be. So
I think we've all had that dog.
Example.
Yeah, I think we've all had that dog that we thought just wasn't all there, right? But then they can outgrow it.
The best example I think I can think of is like there are some breeds that have something called hydrocephalus, which is really common in Chihuahuas. Mm-hmm. And that means that they just have water around their brain. And that can lead to a dull mentation. So just cognitively, they're just not really there. It's almost, they can't really do a lot. They can't walk well. They don't really socialize. They can't eat well. They're pretty deficient from a cognitive standpoint. And sometimes it's so bad that they can't take care of themselves and they have to be euthanized. But so that's probably the best example of a birth defect, that would make it so that they were, really challenged from a developmental standpoint.
Right.
But I mean, I would also say that, fear, aggression, or territorial aggression, or really bad separation anxiety. I mean, I would say that also is a mental condition. Even though it's probably not what the email is referencing. That was probably more of the hydrocephalus thing, but I would still put it in the same category.
There you go. Shirley in West End, info at TonyCurryRadio.net, Darkside the Pooch. He's Dr. Rab Stewart. I'm Tony Curry. In light of the devastating wildfires in Canada, how does smoke affect our pets? It's an interesting question because people up in New York over the last couple of weeks have been told to stay indoors, particularly people that suffer from all kinds of lung issues and asthma and stuff like that. But our dogs don't normally wear a mask and they have to go outside to use the bathroom. How does smoke affect our pets, and what can we do to help them?
Dogs can get a similar condition to COPD. They can get chronic bronchitis. Dogs that live with smokers. Now we're talking something different. Now we're not talking about wildfires. We're talking about people who smoke cigarettes. Dogs can get lung cancer from that. So that kind of stuff, it does affect them. I don't think it affects them as bad as it does people, but I'm sure it's way more now. But on Friday, I heard it was like 6 million acres has burned.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. We have an employee here from Nova Scotia, and I know that she's been keeping up with it because it's kind of her neck of the woods. So it's too bad. It's a sad situation. So hopefully they get it under control.
It really is. Caroline in Lexington, Kentucky wants to know, how long can a dog walk on concrete when it's 95 degrees outside? And is there something they can wear? Do their pads burn like our feet do?
Their pads will burn. And I don't know the exact time limit, but it will happen faster than you think. And we see it, it's been pretty mild so far this summer. It hadn't really been too bad.
Nice.
But by now we usually see it. We see a few cases of it, and it doesn't take long. I mean, you can go walk your dog or have your dog run a couple of miles, and a lot of times that's all that it'll take, just from a heat standpoint. But also something that messes up their paws a lot is if they get wet first. If their paws are wet first and they stay wet for a little while, and then you take them for a run on a hard surface, then they'll blister pretty fast.
Okay. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Always brought to you by Ed's Pet World, 879-1331. A wonderful place for all your exotic pet needs. You can check out also Seth's
That's
Toy
another store.
Yeah,
that's another store, Tony.
That is a Freudian slip right there. None of that's happening down at Ed's Pet World. Check out their exotic pets. You will love everything they've got. And of course, they will make sure they live a long, healthy life through their expertise. They do wonderful work. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Skip and Hoover say, could Dr. Rab please state again when it's too hot to have your dog in a car? He said him and his wife are having a serious disagreement about this. I had my dogs out, and you see my dogs love to go with me. In the wintertime, they can go with me everywhere I go. I take them to church, and of course, I leave them in the car. I take them to pick up my kids, and now, obviously, it's getting a little warmer. I can't do that anymore, and they're freaking out, and they're very, very disappointed. If I've got to get out of my car for either 5 or 10 minutes, going to the grocery store, whatever, I have to leave them at home because even if it's 75 in the sun, I've seen the Weather Channel enough to know that within 30 minutes, it's 34 degrees warmer in your car than it was when you first started. But you brought up a very interesting point, and this is a good test on how you can tell if it's too hot for your dog. How is it?
If it's, once the car is turned off and let's say the windows are up, if it's uncomfortable for you, it's going to be even more uncomfortable for your dog. So unless you can, if you go by this rule of thumb, I mean, it does not have to be a very hot day for it to be too hot in your car for your dog. So, if you feel comfortable rolling the windows down, then that's a different story. but then you got to worry about your dog getting out or somebody, messing with stuff. But if it's too hot, if it's uncomfortable, not even too hot, I would say if it's uncomfortable for you in the car, it's even more so for your dog. So if it's uncomfortable for you, don't leave your dog in the car.
All right, there you go. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. His phone number is 205-208-0301. Darkside the Pooch. It is Dr. Rab Stewart of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. Steve here in Hoover also asked the question. He's noticing more and more pharmaceutical and specified pharmaceutical applications for our dogs and cats. He's like, it's getting kind of ridiculous. It's not just heartworm and flea stuff, but it's stuff for arthritis. It's stuff for dry skin. First of all, he wants to know, are the pharmaceutical companies just trying to make money off of the fact that we're so emotionally attached to our animals? And second of all, does the stuff work? And is there any pharmaceutical for obese animals? We've got a couple things out there for humans right now that actually help us lose weight. Are there anything for animals?
There's a lot of products out there that
it's crazy.
Probably not really. I'm not going to say that. I'm sure that there's science behind most things that, drug companies bring to the table. But what I'm thinking more of is in the line of like nutraceuticals, things that are not controlled by the FDA. There's a lot of companies out there that have really nice packaging and marketing. And so they're going to convince you that your dog needs this supplement. And I can't even begin to name all the ones that are out there. I don't even know all the ones that are out there, but, there's no shortage of stuff that you can go to the store and give to your dog. And I'm sure most of it's not going to hurt your dog. Cause if it was, it wouldn't be a product. But the question is how much is it going to help my dog? And there's stuff out there that's marketed that won't do anything, especially if your dog's already healthy. A lot of these supplements out there, they have their place, but some of them are probably trying to convince you that all dogs need it when that's not really the case. It's not going to hurt any dogs, but how many dogs is it actually going to help if they don't have a certain condition? I think you just got to, if you have a question, it's best to ask your veterinarian. Hey, do you know about this product, or would you mind looking at the contents of this and seeing if you think my dog needs it? Because the point of marketing and the point of advertising is to convince you that you or someone or some animal that you own, needs something. That's the point of it. And it's up to leave it to the professionals to figure out if you do. If you don't know, then ask your vet. When
I saw a commercial for the little blue pill for my little beagle, I knew I was in trouble. I know we had gone too far. That's the last thing I need around this household. Dr. Rab Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital. Tell people how they can find you and all the wonderful work you do. Tell people, and again, don't forget about your boarding issues because, man, if you want to board, place fills up all summer long. Tell people how they can find you.
Call us at 208-0301. You can find us on Facebook, Rossbridge Animal Hospital. And you can email us at rossbridgeanimalhospital@gmail.com.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.